こんにちは、ジョンと申します。約2年間かけて日本語を勉強して、日本語能力試験の N1 に合格できたということについてですね、皆さんにシェアしていきたいと思います。今頑張って日本語を覚えようとしているたくさんの人がいるかなと思うんですけれども、私が使った教材とか方法の中に貴重な発見があったりするのかなと思うので、ぜひぜひ最後までですね、ご覧ください。ということで、早速内容に入っていきたいと思います。GENKI. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of this series. It's one of the most famous and popular series in the Japanese language learning community. There are 2 textbooks and 2 workbooks. The textbooks come with an audio companion that's a great way to learn how natives use the language. They have great English explanations of Japanese, which I think is very, very valuable. With GENKI, you'll get a lot of culture notes, you'll get a lot of politeness descriptions. It's not just grammar and vocab, and that really affects your understanding of the language. So I highly recommend the GENKI series. That's what I used for a semester before coming to Japan, and I was very, very well equipped to kind of start my life in Japan because of those 2 books. The only issue with the books is that they don't present a good way of learning the kanji. And that's why the next book really saved my life. So for those of you who don't know, the kanji are a set of characters borrowed from Chinese. There are 2,136 common use kanji characters. In order to learn the common use kanji characters, Japanese students in Japanese schools basically use rote memory. So you just write them over and over and over again, and you do exercises, and over the course of 12 years, you learn the common use kanji. Now, James Heisig has an amazing book called Remembering the Kanji. It's a legendary book in Japanese language learning circles. I used Heisig's book for 6 months to learn the first 1,000 or so common use kanji, and then, believe it or not, I learned the next 1,000 in about 2 weeks. Basically, in this book, you learn radicals, which are parts of kanji that have meaning, and then you invent stories that describe how those radicals work together to form more complex characters. And the stories that you invent encapsulate the meaning of that character. You're basically making up these mnemonics that help you to recall how to write the kanji, and they help you recall the meaning of the kanji. So it's a very, very useful way of learning the kanji quickly. It's tons of fun. The more effort you put in, the more time you put in, the better. You're going to learn these very, very quickly if you really focus on them. I would love to hear how your kanji learning journeys are going. So definitely leave some comments in the comment section. Tell me about what resources you're using, how much progress you've made, etc., and I will get back to you. The only downside to Heisig's book is that you don't learn the readings. That's where, for me, manga played a very important role. So I'm assuming that most of you guys are nerdy enough to know what manga is, but for the layperson, I will offer here a brief explanation. Manga are Japanese comics. The nice thing about manga is that unless it's the adult stuff, it usually has furigana for each kanji character that appears. Furigana is a way of indicating how the kanji are read. And it uses hiragana or katakana. Usually it's above the kanji, sometimes below, sometimes to the side, depending on the situation. But basically, if you know hiragana and katakana, you can read manga because you don't have to read any kanji independently of the furigana. I had learned the kanji from Heisig's book, and so I knew the meanings of the kanji that I was encountering. And then there were pictures. I knew basic grammar from the GENKI book. So really all I had to pick up from these words was how to read the kanji. Manga is nice because it's fun. Probably you're going to read something that you're interested in, and so it just naturally seeps into your brain. So I highly recommend manga. And surprisingly enough, reading through manga like this and learning the readings of the Japanese kanji in this way had an effect on my listening as well. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the next section. How, you might ask, did knowing the readings of kanji affect my Japanese listening ability? Well, just imagine you're in a situation and someone is being discussed, and you hear something like, 彼は本当に勤勉だよね. And you think, 勤勉, what could that be? And you know some kanji for kin, you know some kanji for ben, and you kind of pair those together in your brain. You observe the context, you observe the situation, and you think about which pairing of kanji might fit that situation. And then you take out your dictionary and you check kinben, and you see if indeed you were right about the kanji being used. And you do this 50 times a day. I mean, you can imagine how good that's going to be for your understanding of the Japanese language. So for me, that's what I did. I just took out my dictionary and checked every time I made a guess, and I kind of gave myself a point if I got it right. That's how learning the readings of the kanji really positively affected my listening as well. And since we're on the topic of listening, I will talk about the other things that I use to improve my listening. I watched tons of anime, I listened to a bunch of music in Japanese, and I watched a bunch of instructional YouTube videos about Japanese. I mean, that's really it. Saturate yourself in the language, listen as much as you can, just find something that you enjoy and partake in it. I think that's the best way to learn. I would love to hear how you guys have experienced listening. Leave comments in the comment section, I'll get back to you. Also, if you have any other ideas or tips about listening or any questions about listening, please leave some comments. Thanks, guys. Now, there still was one problem at this point. I wasn't able to express my thoughts and ideas clearly. And that's why I actively started practicing output. That's what I'm going to talk about next. I was a shy perfectionist when it came to speaking the language. And this is not a good combination if you want to be productive as far as output goes. So I didn't want to make mistakes around people. And what I ended up doing was talking to myself in my room. So for example, この本棚に本がたくさん置いてあって、その中に俺が本当に最後まで読んだ本はあんまりないな。Or I might say something like, 動画を撮り続けるのがマジで疲れるわ。もうやめたいわ。So basically, I would just use as much Japanese as I could to describe my environment, my plans for the day, how I was feeling, etc. And that's how I practiced output. I would also write a lot. I journaled a lot, by hand, yes, of course, and also on my computer or on my phone or whatever. And then one day, I was just able to speak fluently. I'm not even kidding or exaggerating. There was one day, I distinctly remember the day, when I realized, wow, I can speak fluently. I can use Japanese in a way that's comfortable, and I can say what I want to say the way I want to say it. Yes, I was ready to take the JLPT. So I actually only learned about the JLPT several months before I had to take it. I was interested in joining a university in Japan, and in order to actually apply, I had to have passed the N1 of the JLPT. So I had a friend of mine make some copies of an N3 textbook, if I remember correctly. And I looked through some of that, and it was just like reading menus and reading signs, and it was super boring. So I was like, no thank you. I'm not gonna do that. I'd much rather read Naruto. And for the 2 weeks that led up directly to the test, I remember that Naruto was kind of coming to a close, and I really wanted to see what was gonna happen next. So I got the most recent 10 volumes of Naruto, and I just read through those for 2 weeks. That's literally all the study that I did. And believe it or not, I got a 60 out of 60 on the reading comprehension portion of the test. And I got an A on the other two sections, which, you know, is good. I mean, that's the best letter you can get. It was a low A, granted, but it was an A nonetheless. So starting with the GENKI and going through all the steps that I explained, guys, that was how I prepared for the JLPT without even knowing that I was doing it. I made a clickbaity title for the video because obviously I want to get as many views as possible. But I do want to stress here that my love of the language and my interest in the language was what enabled me to pass the test in 2 years. I wasn't motivated by competition. I wasn't trying to be better than anyone else. I wasn't trying to break any records. I was just enjoying the learning process. I was enjoying reading manga, watching anime, making friends, having new experiences, discovering things about the country and the culture. That motivated me day after day after day after day to improve myself. Definitely, guys, share with me how your language learning journey is going, what tools you're using, what problems you've encountered. I'd love to have a conversation with you guys about any aspect of Japanese. If you guys enjoyed the video at all, please hit the like button and subscribe. I will get you more content like this. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you guys in the next one. Mata ne.